Weird. All right. Let's get into the news and some of the stories. We're talking hurricane here for a minute. I do want to show you, this is where we are currently. You can see this thing ramped up. Look here. This, I just pay attention. So we'll come back to it if we need to. But started out as a little depression. It kind of hung out in this area for 3 or 4 days. And then all of a sudden, it was just churning. Not really moving, doing much. It was just a disturbance. Kind of started forming into a storm. It went from a 1 that briefly, and then all of a sudden 3, 4, 5. So between here and here, it's strengthened rapidly. In fact, it was so rapid that they were meteorologists out there. This guy John Morales, who is a hurricane dude, okay, was getting emotional on NBC talking about the storm and how fastly it was intensifying. Never seen anything like it. This thing grew 50, or should I say it dropped 50 millibars in just a few hours, which is unprecedented. Well, we'll get back into this. I'm going to leave this part here, all right, because I'm going to show you why this intensified, okay? Now, you get over to Florida, all these colors that you see in here, that's power outage, right? So the power is out for a lot of Floridians right now. This is the latest that's out here. It's back to a 1. It will more than likely, if I had to guess, probably reform out here, but I don't see any indication that they are flying out here to check it out, all right? I don't think they really care. I think they feel like these patterns are going to keep it off of the United States. Well, then we go back to, this NORAD stuff, and let's just do a stop and a burn. Just so you can see the weather piece of it, all right? This is probably, whatever's going on here is probably why they're not worried about it coming back here. Just thinking, all right, out loud. Okay, so reduce that. This is where we are. And then they're still reeling up here. Now, I mentioned the other day, we talked about the amount of water volume. We'll look at that here in just a minute. Before we get too deep into the hurricane thing, one thing I did want to point out, if you have not done so, you need to go over here to Candace Owens' channel on YouTube, and you need to watch this video. It's called I Spoke with Kamala's Uncle, right? She's been chasing down the genealogy of, Bob Marley, all right? Well, let's just call her who she is, right? Kamala, okay? If you vote for this lady after watching this video, you need to get your head checked because you are voting for a pathological liar. This woman, when it comes to her background and everything that she's about, is just straight up a liar. If her mouth is moving, she's either doing one of two things. She's either asking you for money to support her campaign, or she's lying to you about something. You can watch all of her interviews, and she hems and haws every single time, never answers a direct question, deflects it 100% of the time, and only goes on shows that are super friendly to her, that aren't going to challenge her, they're going to throw her softballs. So anyway, go watch this video. Again, it's Candace Owens, the best thing you'll ever see. And oh, by the way, if you haven't figured out, Kamala Harris, she's the only VP ever in our history to visit an abortion clinic. Very important to her. Now, if she was actually an African-American woman, let me tell you, she'd have a little bit of a hard time with this. I don't know how you could have a clean conscience knowing the data that we know when it comes to African-American women, and that they are on the leaderboard when it comes to murdering babies, okay? Look at this. 37% of all abortions are African-American, all right? Those are black babies. Now, you tell me how you are for the people that you're representing, supposedly, that really isn't. She's actually Indian, but and how you would be able to go to an abortion clinic knowing that they're in here killing your people. I can't do it. I just don't get my head around it. Just speaks volumes of who you're dealing with here, right? The queen of lies. All right. Let's move on. We'll get over here to this piece. Now we're going to back into the hurricane thing because I got ahead of myself, but I'm going to show you some things. We already talked about this. Notice the date has been extended. I don't know why and or how, because the aircraft that we were tracking has left and vacated the area back to Germany. But this right here, this is the German Aerospace Center for Atmospheric Research. They are the ones that were down here messing around with the weather in Barbados when Helene strengthened and came right on through and just went boop, hard right straight into where it went, dropping 40 trillion gallons of water, right? 40 trillion. Now, let's go over here. Let's just take a look at some headlines for a brief minute, and we'll get into some of the other details. Now, here is the difference. Look at the volume of water, okay? When you start talking about the amount of water that took place, I mentioned it the other day in my last video, that Helene was 40 trillion gallons of water. This is Milton, 31.83 billion gallons of water. Yeah, I mean, it sounds a lot, but when you start talking about 40 trillion versus 31 billion, ain't no comparison. Not even remotely close to the same storm, although it was pretty bad, right? Okay, so let's continue on. I'm going to go back over here to the mini. We're going to get into, I just want to point out that the Germans were here, all right? Now, this is the Germans over the last, well, since hurricane season began, but in the last couple of weeks. Cape Verde. If you're familiar with Cape Verde Island, that is where all the hurricanes form and come out, all right? And you can see they are there. Now, wait a minute. That's the French. My bad. They were there too. This is the Germans. I got too many buttons here, folks. All right, look at this now. This is them over Barbados. Okay, little perfectly round circle. And then this is them, Cape Verde. Same place the French were in the last 2 weeks, actually the last 10 days. And then they boogied back to Germany. So Cape Verde, that's where all the hurricanes form. They come off of that African coastline, and that's where they become storms, and then they get cruising across the Atlantic, and they end up coming here in the U.S. Now, weird patterns over Germany. So if you're in Germany, just know they're doing the same thing to you, okay? Not a coincidence that these are the same two countries, the United States and Germany, that formed NASA, all right? All right, so you got that one. Get your head around it because they are definitely in on whatever was going on there. And it looks like they're coming back since this thing is now extended to the 10th, even though they left about 3 or 4 days ago. In fact, they left right after Helene. All right, look at this. Hurricane Milton. Now, we just talked about Helene, all right, and we're talking a little bit about Hilton. I showed you the path and how it just ramped up. Look at this. It says Hurricane Milton is setting all sorts of Atlantic hurricane records. You get down, right? It's Hurricane Center. This is the update, the latest one before it actually downgraded. But look, it reported to reach 180 miles an hour with a minimum pressure of 897. That's pretty low. In fact, that is very close to the record, all right? And it's ranking one of the top 10 most powerful Atlantic hurricanes on record, all right? This thing intensified, like I said. It dropped 50 millibars in just a few hours, which is absolutely insane. And why would a meteorologist be weeping over what he was witnessing unless he was kind of, he knew what they were doing? Now, it says here that their initial wind speed is set at 135 knots, which is 80 knots increase in 24 hours. All right. And then it only eclipsed by Wilma in 2005 and Felix in 2007. Now, you talk about those, right? You go, oh, this is interesting. Note the dates, okay? Because now I want to show you some things. Let's go back over here to this side. And I'm going to show you something that is going to, pardon my French, it's going to piss you off. And it's going to make you extremely mad because they're lying to you. Right? You see, and I'm going to come back to this one in just a second. You remember MTG talking about the fact that weather modification, and Biden just came out and said she's absolutely crazy. There's no way we're not modifying weather. Blah, blah. These are kooks, whatever he had to say about us truthers out there. Look, right here, every one of these, and I have vetted them, and I'm going to show them to you here in just a minute. Every single one of these are a U.S. patent for weather modification. And you can go down, the numbers are there. You just type in U.S. patent, go to Google, U.S. patent, and that number and start looking for yourself. Look at some of these. Earliest one, there's one 1962. It was a patent, a method of artificially influencing the weather. Well, they got better over time. 2001, they had the ability to control hurricanes and tornadoes through a device. So what is that device? I don't know. And then you go September 11, 2012. Right now, you're starting to see 2001, 2012. You read about Wilma in 05, Felix in 07. They don't miss an opportunity, right? And this one here in 2012 says the method for decreasing the intensity and frequency of tropical storms or hurricanes. That's decreasing. And then 2013, right? It says apparatus and method for initializing the formation of tropical cyclones. Now that would be Pacific, right? And then another one, a method of influence and direction of travel of hurricanes. And then one down here below, there's several others, right? But this one talks about typhoons and tornadoes, etc. So then the very last one down there on the bottom, again, this is all patents that exist today. All right. So we go back over here. I'm going to pop them up because I pulled the thread on these and they are real. Okay. Method for decreasing the intensity or frequency of tropical storms or hurricanes. This as the abstract. Modification of tropical storms and hurricanes by mixing the upper layer of a section of a body of water with water from a lower section of the body of water. Rapidly mixing the warmer upper layer with cooler lower layer cools the surface of the water, thereby reducing the amount of heat energy available to fuel the intensity and movement of storms. And then they say, basically, they just keep going, all right? And then you can see the designs and the drawings. Here are the documents, all right? Then you got this one here, a method to influence the direction of travel when it comes to hurricanes. In like manner, the winds intersect and deflect each other in space. In space, we can intersect and deflect the hurricanes and storms at the area of thrusting between their steering winds and their outer edge, with blasting explosive waves of non-nuclear high-power propellant fuel missiles thrown in vertical, alignment against the routing of the steering wind current. Just absolutely insane. First for testing, 300-pound missile thrown, adequate equipped air vehicle for missiles launching. Like this just goes into all kinds of stuff, and they show it. Actually, look, they demonstrate it. So there's your patent. Here's the guy that invented it, and there's the documents. Like I said, every single one that I just showed you over here on this list right here, that's them. Okay. All right. Here's one of them again. This is just a hurricane and tornado control device. And it gets into all the details around it. Okay. So yes, they are 100% manipulating the weather. 100%. I went to the wrong screen there. Like I said, I got too many buttons, too many things going on. All right, look at this. Biden-Harris admin used FEMA funding for illegal immigrants. Now, this lady she is right there in line with Kamala in terms of her lying. But she came out and said basically that, they were just baiting her. U.S. House Press Secretary Jean-Pierre, recently told reporters it was categorically false that FEMA funding has been used to support illegal immigrants in the United States. Blah, blah, blah. Do you see the pattern here, folks? They will lie to your face and not blink an eye. They will straight up tell you, whatever it is they want to tell you. And they have no qualms at all about lying to you. Everything that Harris says, straight up lie. There's not a truth that ever comes out of that woman's mouth. Now look at this. Post-Millennial cited recent reports that accuse FEMA of providing $641 million in funding for illegal immigrant shelters in places like Washington, D.C., San Jose, California, Salt Lake City, Utah, etc. Note the locations. All right. This right here, yeah, they just debunked everything she said. Nobody will ever fact check her, right? All right. So let's see, as I did dance around a little bit, this is some of the footage there from Florida. You can see Milton as it goes in. So again, the FEMA piece, right? They're going to tell you they're out of money. All these people that have this stuff that just happened, they're flooded to no end. They lost everything. Their insurance isn't going to cover it, and they'll never recover from it. They'll have to walk away, most of them, or either that or drain their savings. But look at that. You got boats in parking lots, et cetera. So FEMA better start finding some money here pretty quickly, since you gave it all away to the illegals coming into our country, lock, stock, and barrel. All right. So, okay, on over to this piece. Migrant caravan departs southern Mexico for the U.S. border. Here they come, folks, just in time. Remember, we're 30 days out till the election, and then they're going to all show up. Now, do note that if they're able to do what it is they did last time, or let's say they weren't successful in doing that, okay, watch what happens between the time of a Trump win and the time he takes office. They will do just like they did with the Iranians and cargoes full of money, cargo planes full of money. There you go. They'll do the same thing here. They'll open up the border, or they'll find some way to get them in. And if it's not the southern border here, they'll fly them straight in, just like this. Okay. You get over here, you look at Omni. This is actually Global X, right? First and foremost, you see how the flights, notice where they're headed there. That one's going into New York, the other up there into Milwaukee. Okay. These are taking illegals, by the way, straight in, right? Up to Seattle, Tacoma, and then into Savannah, it looks like. Last 3 days. And then you can see the borders, right? Now, look at Omni, okay? And you're going to see similar patterns. I still think they're taking them to Hawaii. We know they're taking them up to Alaska. Now, I do see the one Omni flight that comes into Alaska goes over to Asia, so maybe not. Border, 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 okay? Mexico, Central America, right? You can see it, Panama Canal. Into the Caribbean, you got Jamaica, into Jamaica. Then you got Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. You go down